Hello, everybody. It's Mandy Ray of Ecstatic Astrology, and I'm here to give you the new moon in Pisces forecast for February 27th, 2025. And it really is kind of the opening to eclipse season, even though it won't be an eclipse. The North Node, which is the eclipse point, has just moved into Pisces and it's left Aries. And the South Node is in Virgo. So March 14th and 29th, we are going to have two eclipses. It just so happens that this new moon is in the same sign as the North Node, even though it's not an eclipse. It's too far away. The new moon's at 9 degrees of Pisces, and the eclipse point, the North Node, I believe, is at 28 right now. Pretty far apart. We'll see when we look at the chart. So that's why I named this talk Charting Your Path Through the Clouds. It's because Pisces is associated with the unseen. It's the ether, it's fog. It is what's called a mutable water sign. So it's associated with the subconscious and dreams and inspiration and the muses and anything you can imagine. There are no boundaries with Pisces. So this new moon, which is a time to plant seeds in what? Our imagination. It's just really hard to see, though. The other thing with Pisces is that Saturn is there, and Saturn is mastery. And so we are really being asked to trust our intuition and to follow our gut feelings and to go into that meditative space, that mystical space. And for some people, it may not be comfortable. Some people are highly attuned to that already, and it will be a little easier. But this is a trusting phase, and we are being invited to lean on faith. I think that is the most important thing here. And I know a few people who faith is not in their vocabulary. You know what I'm saying? So you can substitute that with intuition. You can substitute that with creativity, with maybe opening your mind and believing in possibilities is a good way to put that. So let's go ahead and look at what's called the Sabian symbol for this new moon. As Sabian symbols were written by Jane Rudyard. This one comes from a website called SabianSymbols.com, and it really distills the Sabian symbol into something that you can use. So this new moon is at 9 degrees in a few minutes of Pisces. So we would read for Pisces 10, and it is an aviator in the clouds. This shows being able to stay on course, not allowing distractions or difficult or confusing issues to deter you from your destination. Now, I'm going to stop there for a second because what I feel like this shows is that Saturn is co-present. Saturn is going to be focused on the destination here. Saturn does bring form to Pisces, which is really hard. It's like wrangling the clouds. How are you going to do that? But this Sabian symbol does suggest that we are able to that. So it says how? Perhaps you need to rise above and transcend the more nitty-gritty realities of earthly existence and its difficulties. Stop again. The South Node is in Virgo. It's really a way to describe the South Node is exactly what this says. And what's so crazy is this Sabian symbol has nothing to do with the South Node of Virgo. The Sabian symbol is always that for the 10th degree or Pisces 10. So the fact that this specific new moon is happening at a degree that has been described as also other things that are happening right now is just so appropriate. I find that the Sabian symbols do that for us. So we're supposed to be letting go of anxieties and details and maybe rising above the nitty gritty. So the other thing is you have to be aware that you may not be seeing the complete picture very clearly. That is exactly what Pisces describes. You know, Pisces is the complete picture. I'm sorry, Pisces is not the complete pictures. Pisces is the, see, I'm even misspeaking it. Mercury is in Pisces right now, too. It is the confusion that comes along with trying to see the big picture. All right, so the other thing is seeing past the surface appearances to things that others miss. And you can really look at this as connected to intuition. Really, that's what intuition helps us do is see past the surface to things you might miss when you're just seeing with your eyes. This is seeing with your spirit, right? So you may be able to rely on your spiritual, creative, or intellectual skills to take you above and beyond those things that others have to deal with. However, you may also be evading the real truth. I really like that. And I think it's important. It's an important part of the eclipse because this eclipse is what's called square, which is tension to Jupiter and Gemini. And Jupiter is truth. Jupiter in Gemini is intellectual truth. So there's tension there between what we want to imagine, what we want to see through, and also the intellectual part of it. Sailing through difficulties is a part of this. The need for accurate navigation, being in charge of the controls, seeking higher truths, mastery, flight, navigation, maps, compasses, pilots. This is all Saturn in Pisces as well. The downside is escaping responsibilities, isolating oneself, drugs and alcohol abuse, avoiding reality, unearthed, unrealistic expectations, missing the point, evasive. You can go find every Sabian symbol for everything that you have in your chart on SabianSymbols.com. I believe Linda Hill is the person who does that. I may be getting it wrong, but it's there on that website. The reason I wanted to show you this is because it's such a good amalgamation of the exact new moon. And it seems to happen that way with the Sabian symbols every time. I don't know why. That's exactly what astrology does for us. So you don't really question it. You just go with it, and that's kind of a Piscean thing. Have faith in it. So let's go look at the chart so I can describe with my own words what we're seeing. And actually, before I do that, we'll show you where this is. This is February. We're here. New moon time. And as you'll see, on March 1st, Venus goes retrograde. So we'll talk about that too. And we'll talk about some things coming up in March as well. But I just wanted to show you where we are in the calendar with this new moon. All right, now let's go look at the chart. Here is the chart for the new moon in Pisces. I'm going to get my drawing tool out because it's important to have my drawing tool. Here it is. That's the new moon at 9 degrees of Pisces. So if you have anything in Pisces, Gemini, Sagittarius, or Virgo around 9 degrees, pay attention. And if you have anything in water signs around 9 degrees, pay attention. Water signs would be Scorpio, Cancer, and Pisces, because it's going to connect into your chart one of two ways. I will go through the rising signs later, so go ahead and check that out. I think that's the most accurate way to get horoscopes is by rising sign. This is just for the general public, though. What I want to talk about is first is how this new moon is square to its ruler. So in Pisces, in astrology, Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, especially in traditional astrology. Jupiter is in Gemini right now, and it is a few degrees away from the exact 90-degree square, but it's close enough. Now, Jupiter is what's called a benefic. Jupiter is about truth, philosophy, expansion, abundance. That's all Jupiter. It's in the sign of Gemini, which is how we think. Okay. So as you can imagine, this expands data processing. It expands the instances of speaking, communicating. But the square from Pisces confuses it. Okay. Especially because Saturn is there. And for a while, Saturn squared Jupiter. We're kind of past that. It's going to happen again. But the Jupiter-Saturn square is what's been going on, let's just say the last year, and by sign for sure. Saturn is trying to make sense of things. Jupiter's like, let me try. And Saturn's like, I'm just confused. I'm in the fog. So there's this tension there. And the new moon is wanting to plant seeds, but there suggests a need to be intellectual about it, to plan, to think, to get the details right. Now, Gemini is also the twins, right? So there's lots of differing opinions flying around, but what is important is that we focus on our intuition. Now, let's take a look at where Mercury is. Why Mercury? Because Gemini, where Jupiter is ruled by Mercury. Well, Mercury's over here in Pisces as well. Mercury and Saturn, the North Node, the eclipse point Neptune. So this overwhelming theme of mysticism. Well, that's the good part. Inspiration, that's great. Meditation, spirituality, love all that. Dreams can be fun. The illusion, the delusion, the confusion of Pisces is the negative part of that. And that's what I want to emphasize here is that if you work with these new and full moons and the eclipses, you can try your best to think, to consult your gut, to do both of those at the same time. And it's when we can do both of those that we're really winning, right? When we can listen for, let's just say, the Holy Spirit. That's a very Pisces concept. And I'm steeped in Christian symbology, archetypes in the South. I live in Alabama, right? So the Holy Spirit, which is the messages you get, that's a Piscean topic, right? Gemini is the scribe. Gemini is the theology student. Gemini reads books. Okay. So it is the difference between the two. Gemini would be the Bible, where Pisces is the Holy Spirit. Actually, Sagittarius might be the Bible. But we're talking about the differences in these archetypes, right? And they are very different. One is very logical, one is very intuitive. Okay. So, how can you chart your way through it? Well, that comes after the new moon, as always. So, Venus, which is the next thing I want to talk about, is in Aries here. It's at 10 degrees. Venus is what we value and what we love. And in Aries, which is a very self-focused sign, I don't want to say selfish, I mean self-focused on your survival, on your desires. Venus has kind of a hard time there because Aries is used to fighting, Venus is used to peace, right? But Venus goes, what about me? What about you, Mandy? What about you, listener? Who are you? What do you want? What are you doing? That's one way we could say it. The reason I think it's really going to ask that is because it's about to go retrograde March 1st. So Venus retrograde is a reevaluation. And I think this is one way we can chart our way through is desire. What do you desire? It's the time to figure that out. Where does your gut send you? Where does your passion send you? Now, there's something else that's been telling us to do that, and that is Mars retrograde. It's not retrograde anymore. It went direct February 23rd. Mars is how we do things. Mars is how we move through the world. And Mars is in Cancer, which is emotions, nurturing. It's kind of whiny right now. Our inner warrior is whiny, and Venus retrograde is like, hey, don't you remember how you used to value your survival, how you used to be angry about this? It's such an interesting interplay. Neither one of these planets likes to be there. Mars is in fall in Cancer or detriment, one of the two. I get them confused, but it's not, it doesn't do well. It's opposite, it's sign of exaltation, okay? So Mars in Cancer is the warrior that has to feel, or it's the wounded warrior, the emotionally wounded warrior, right? It's also, I'm going to really have my emotions stirred up. And Mars went retrograde there. It's direct now, but it's slow. It is barely moving. So it is exacerbating those emotions, that gut. But it doesn't really like to be there. It likes to be in Aries. Well, guess what? Venus is in Aries. Guess where Venus's home is? Libra. It's opposite. They are in foreign territory right now. So our egos are really sensitive, and Venus, our values are really flared up, really, if you look at it that way. So the interplay there is really, really something to pay attention to. And you'll want to look at that in your chart. When you watch the rising sign videos, just know that that is going to be a point of focus, these two places, for a little while. So Venus goes retrograde on March 1st. And again, it's sitting there at 10 degrees. It barely moves. So from the new moon almost ushers in the Venus retrograde. But here's the very interesting thing, why I wanted to open up with eclipses and the North Node, the eclipses being in Pisces. Well, yes, the North Node is in Pisces, but the solar eclipse, the North Node eclipse is coming up in late March, will actually be a new moon in Aries at 9 degrees. The North Node will be in Pisces, but that's why it's a partial solar eclipse. It's so far away. So March 29th, or I think it's the 29th. Let me double check here. Is it the 29th? Because I'll get that wrong. Yes, it's the 29th. Okay. So March 29th, the new moon where this is right now, it will be exactly 9 degrees of Aries, March 29th. So everything in here is connected. It's connected into the eclipses. It's connected into the Venus retrograde. Mercury will go retrograde and come back here by the end of, or the middle of, or beginning of April. It goes retrograde March 15th. I'll quit tripping over my words. Just talking about Mercury retrograde is making me trip over my words. But Mercury retrograde will also start in Aries. So the Aries Pisces places are very, very focused on right now. And then we have Mars and Cancer very focused on. So Cancer, Aries, Pisces. Special mention to Jupiter and Gemini. Gemini placements are getting it, but Jupiter is kind of chilling, man. Jupiter is all right. It's doing okay. It is square the new moon, but I think it's helping us to be square the new moon. It's these other places that you want to watch out for. Now, Mars in Cancer, the good thing about it is it's going to trine, meaning it's going to be, instead of in tension with something, it's going to be supportive of the Pisces stuff, which is why the intuition, the feeling, the gut really takes over for this new moon phase. This new moon phase ends in a lunar eclipse in Virgo, and it'll be right here with the South Node in Virgo. So it's saying trust, 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 let go of the details. You have to, because Mercury is about to go retrograde. The lunar eclipse is March 14th. So this new moon phase really ends in a full moon eclipse, lunar eclipse, blood moon eclipse in Virgo. So leaning into faith, maybe out of logic. Now, don't forget, Jupiter's here at the T, reminding us to stay rooted in logic. It is a tricky, tricky situation. It's kind of like a circus, okay? And I've said that before about some astrology. This really is, especially with Pisces involved. Let's just talk about some history here, because I want to say that Venus retrograde happened last in 20, let's see, I want to say 2017. Let me go look at the chart really quick. I want to double check this. But it was also right around the time that, come on. Sorry, as I'm looking for it, right around the time that there were eclipses in Pisces and Virgo last, okay? So there was some similar stuff going on, and I want to talk about that if I can just get to Venus retrograde. Here we go. That would have been, oh, good, I was right, March of 2017. So at that time, it was just flipped. The South Node, which is the upside down horseshoe, was in Pisces, and the North Node was in Virgo. If you want to look back at March 2017, we're going to have some similar things going on. The new moon around that time was at 8 degrees of Pisces. This new moon is at 9 degrees of Pisces. That would have been February 26, 2017. So go look back at that time period and see what was going on for you. The major difference is that Mars was in Aries, Jupiter was in Libra. So there were a few differences. However, there are some pieces of that puzzle you're going to get to put together. Mine, for instance, had a very spiritual time period around that time. I had just completely dived into astrology. My practice was beginning. And I've kind of lost that recently, So I'm learning to lean back into that inspiration, that creativity of the Pisces part of myself, which for me is my ninth house. I'm a Cancer rising. It's my ninth house of truth and adventure and philosophy. And so that's where this new moon is. And I'm going to take this seed, I'm going to plant it. I'm going to let go of the Virgo stuff when we get to March 14th, which is got me really anxious about the details of it, perfecting everything. I think being frozen in perfection has been a way to deal with Saturn and Pisces. We've kind of, everything's over here. So we've kind of reverted back to the Virgo to be just frozen in the details and the perfection and the healing and the anxiety and all of the Virgo things, the details, And I think we're being really invited to try to let go of that and see the world as it is now. The world is changing. AI, robots, drones, people, reeking of delusion in society. Pisces is associated with cults. It's why it's associated with escapism, right? So we've all gone to this Virgo, like, oh gosh, you think about the new generation, no drinking, no drugs. That's a very Virgo concept. We're going to be kind of perfect in our healing, right? Maybe it's time to look at the spiritual and see how we can blend the two to come up with our truth. Why do I say our truth? There is nothing in Sagittarius right now. Nothing. So usually whenever there's an empty place, we end up reverting to that empty place. We have this place, the cross is almost complete. It would be complete with the truth, with the philosophy, with the inner knowing. But we have to combine all of these things. We have to combine the logic with the fact that, we don't always have to be perfect with it. And the fact that we need to trust our intuition. If you see a video that looks fake to you, go research it. That's Jupiter and Gemini. That's Pisces, Jupiter, Gemini. It doesn't mean Virgo, don't ever look at any AI videos, right? So I hope that this is helping you understand a little with this new moon in Pisces. I can't wait to do the eclipse presentation. It's going to be fun. I have a lot to share for the eclipses. I have a lot of history. That being said, you can view my video, but there will also be moi putting on a workshop March 12th with some friends, some colleagues from Ask Astrology. That is an acronym for Asteria Sophia Kairos. And we are putting on an eclipse workshop where we're going to have a workbook. We're going to do a live presentation. We're going to do breakout rooms. There's 5 of us. So if you join the workshop, you'll understand a little more because we will be able to personally work with you on your eclipse meaning in your chart. Okay. You could also purchase a recording after and the workbook, and that will help you also work through what these eclipses are going to mean for you. And maybe this is a good new moon in Pisces time to do something like that, to imagine, to dive into your spirit. And I think that is a good way to deal with this. Nature, hiking, painting, creativity. You know what? Before I leave, let me look at March just very quickly. I don't want to leave it because we're here. Let's see, where are we? What's today? Today is Wednesday. I'm recording this, the 26th. So the new moon is here the 27th, and we have Venus retrograde. Then on the 2nd, we have the Sun square Jupiter. Jupiter being what I've explained already in Gemini, how we believe our truth, but in Gemini, it's like really researching the Sun in Pisces. You can see why the new moon's so close to square Jupiter, but you can also see that it doesn't happen for a couple of days until after. So this is going to kind of continue into Sunday the 2nd, this new moon vibe. The 3rd, things will change. Mercury moves into Aries. Very important because that's really going to kick off the Mercury retrograde vibes. Don't forget, Mercury retrograde doesn't start till here after the eclipse, but it's already going to be in its shadow. I think the next big thing is going to be the 11th, Mercury conjoined Venus retrograde. Very, very much tune into. If you want to know what Venus retrograde is about for you, by the way, I'm going to do a video about that. It's going to have to be separate. Mercury conjunct Venus is going to be the day to tune into any issues with other people. That's why I have the little communication thing. And maybe opening up communication about something that's uncomfortable. Sun conjoins Saturn on the 12th. Thank goodness we get past it. Saturn is mastery. Saturn is commitment. And that's when we go into the eclipse, and I will be back for the 14th. But that being said, the Sun conjunction to Saturn is the day we're having that workshop. You can go find it. I'll have a link on my website and in the comments, but you can also go find it on Ko-fi. We have our link to it. So just search Ask Astrology, but probably the best thing to do is look in the comments or go to my website, ecstaticastrology.com, to go see about the workshop. Also, you can book a session with me at ecstaticastrology.com. And see, is there any other info I want to give you? I just want to thank you for being here. I'm getting started again on my new and full moon videos. I've had some health troubles. I've had some life stuff, and I'm getting back to it. And you can also go check out the whole March forecast I do. It's general with Krista of Practical Astros on her channel. I'll also put a link to that in the comments and on my website. And please like, share, subscribe, comment. I'd like to know if you're here. And I'd like you to tell people about it, that they can get a free little mini thing from me on YouTube. And I will go do the rising signs right now. Look for that. Should be in the playlist under this for the new moon in Pisces. I'm Mandy Ray of Ecstatic Astrology. Thanks for joining me.